Now, in this edition of Network Africa, we'll be joining the World Bank Country Director to Nigeria, Mrs. Francoise Marie Nelly, on the recent mini-country performance portfolio review held recently in Abeokuta, southwestern Nigeria. Join us in this interview. So let's just quickly take a review of the World Bank mini-country project performance portfolio review. What informs this exercise?
Yes, thank you. The World Bank conducts each year a portfolio review, and we used to do it at the national level in Abuja, but we have decided now to go down to states because our engagement in states is increasing and the action is taking place at state level. And thirdly, we want to see our programs embedded in the state strategies. So we decided, instead of having a national country performance portfolio review, to do it at state level. We started with the northern state in Mina a month ago. These past 2 days we've been here in Ogun State for the south states, as well as 2 states of southwest and 2 states of the south states. And then we will continue with southeast, and then we will close the loop with the northeast.
One of the projects that the World Bank assisted project is pushing is the FADAMA project. As a matter of fact, it's gained a wide endorsement. Why the choice of FADAMA if one is to consider the varying realities? Finding out the meaning of FADAMA, we understand that it means dry season farming. But not all the zones in Nigeria has the challenge of coping with dry season farming. So how much of research informed that decision, and how would this benefit the common man?
Well, as you noted, there are about 8 projects being monitored in the states. We focus on FADAMA for the field visit as well as the HIV/AIDS, as you have noted. FADAMA is very important for us because it's one of the few projects that are in all the states of the Federation. Secondly, it's a project that is at the local level that really empowers the communities. And it's very interesting to see that communities decide what they want to do, they get the support, and more importantly, they are gradually getting organized, working in cooperative to scale up their production. And I think that this is one of the most significant projects for us because it addresses poverty reduction at the local level in a very effective way. Women are involved, they work, farmers, men are involved, and we can see that the benefit of the overall exercise really is effective and is really seen at the level of the household in the way they use the incomes that are generated.
Now it's been since 2009 since you started this, since the World Bank started this project, and now connecting with the voices of the people in this rural segment that you've propagated, you've launched this campaign of the FADAMA project and implementation. What did you see in the faces of these people living in these areas?
Definitely. We see joy in the face of the beneficiaries, and particularly the women. You know, we saw a cooperative of women. They are organized. They have now their equipment. Some of them produce gari, and you can see the production chain. And they tell us that they generate more income. They use the added income to not only produce more, to increase their production, but also to their family, to their household. For example, I asked the question, are kids going to school? And you could see, you know, the women smile and say, well, all our children are going to school. So it's really a joy to see that this is a project at the local level that is going through the value chain, and you can see that has direct impact in terms of income generated, in terms of empowerment, because they feel that they decide, and there is a good complementarity if you see between the women and the men. The women are working more on the processing, for example, to transform this cassava into gari. The men are in the field, for example. And you have that. And thirdly, as I said earlier, how it benefits to the family. So it's really a win-win situation.
Now, you talked about paying school fees. Now, what kind of quality education access to quality education do you think these people would honestly be able to afford? And what level of income do you expect them to live in now with this kind of assisted projects?
You are raising a very good point, which is the issue of scaling up. But let me go, as you said, step by step. First of all, the project has helped them buy equipment. For example, where I visited, it's a place where they were able to buy the mill to process, the cassava to produce the gari, for example. And with that, they can produce a little bit more. They can aggregate, their production and be able to sell it to the market. And we saw on average that their income has increased by a ratio of 40 to 50%. So that is quite good. But now what I would like to see in terms of the full benefit of the project, and this is exactly what we are now going to do in the next phase of FADAMA, is to scale up. So the potential is there, but the challenge, and the way I see it, is that how to allow them to aggregate their production, to be together instead of having small individual, grouping, that they go to next scale, in the next level. And I would envisage also intermediaries coming to work with them in terms of the packaging of the product, the quality of the presentation of the product, so that they can actually go up the value chain and increase their revenues, what they can get out of it. So in the next phase of FADAMA, that will be the focus, to really help move from the small levels that we had to a level where we can integrate the value chain. You bring more technicity, more quality in the packaging, in the merchandising. And in fact, I have an idea that I'm going to share with the Minister of Agriculture, which is to do a U-win for agribusiness. You know that the Minister of Finance has done this U-win for the youth, coming with good idea for the business plans. I see a lot of potential, so I'm glad that you're actually asking me this question, because I see a lot of potential to bring, the young graduate from the Lagos Business School that are now the techniques, the marketing technique, the commercialization, and come and complement these producers to help really reach, the market at a different level and from a different angle.
Now, looking at the implementation strategies of the World Bank assisted projects, putting the state government at the driver's seat, has this really paid off?
I can really see it already paying off in various ways. First of all, we consider that the World Bank contribution is catalytic. We want to have a demonstration effect. And then we think that these methodologies, these approaches can be replicated, basically can be scaled up so the state government can use its own resources instead of going ahead and designing again new way of rolling out resources. We discussed of the FADAMA, but I also would like to mention another project that is similar with social infrastructure, the community social development project, where basically communities identify their needs at the local level. For example, saying, well, in our area we do not have a facility, a health facility. Can you help us aggregate that? They want to access water. There is no water. Drilling a borehole and organizing it, you can help. So my point is that, and somebody was mentioning it this morning during the CPPR, during the review, to say, well, this is a little money, not much. If you look at when we go at the level of each state, we have put, let's say, $5 million, yet we have reached so many communities. If the state resources can come and be channeled, essentially you have a multiplier effect instantly. And we are already seeing that more and more states are putting their own resources, using the same approach, and I think that that is excellent. Secondly, what we would like to see is that the project would be embedded in the government strategy. Let me take another example, another sector. In the transport sector, we've been funding in the past maintenance and development of rural roads. Now, in the new approach that we are taking, we said we want to understand your strategies for developing, maintaining rural roads. And then the World Bank money will come, will provide some input for the first 2 years, and gradually toward the third year, 4th year, the state budget will then take over not only in terms of continuing the rehabilitation, but ensuring the maintenance of the assets that have been developed and put in place with World Bank money. This way you have again a win-win situation where you have sustainability of the project. You don't have a situation by which, in a few years you will come and there is no work because nobody has taken care of their maintenance. So this is, for example, another approach where we are going to work with the states.
Now, I believe the concentration has been on this World Bank mini-country performance portfolio. The focus has really been mainly on the southern states. Now, how much would you say, averagely now, would you estimate has been released to these zones?
First of all, in terms of the disbursement, the counterpart funding, it is an issue that is there, so I would not deny it. But the good news is that more and more the states see the importance for them to develop, to pay their counterpart funding. And you heard, for example, the Commissioner of Delta State indicating that they've been paying their counterpart funding and they have no areas. So I think that we also see some positive competition. Finally, you mentioned the fact that one person was not aware of the sources of funding. I'm not actually too worried about this particular point, because to me, the best situation will be the one where money is being seen in the state budget. So the state has a health strategy, the state has a transport strategy, the state has an agriculture strategy, and define the needs. The World Bank resources are being integrated as part of this budget. In fact, we discussed a lot, as you noted, about the organization of the budget, preparing a medium-term expenditure framework that allows you to see what is needed and how the various partners come and complement each other, so that you don't have a duplication of resources, that you don't have also a loss of resources. And I think that this is what matters most.
Now, it seems Lagos State has the highest allocation from the World Bank. What informed the choice of Lagos State, and why the lopsidedness of this allocation?
Well, first of all, I would say you have a city like Lagos that has so many infrastructure needs. Let us talk about urban transportation. The World Bank has supporting very efficiently, the development of the bus transit system. And we are now expanding. You have heard about the BRT. So that requires significant resources to be able, to put in place, not only to draw and establish the specific route, and then the ancillary investment that goes to it.
Now, looking deep at this area, how much do you think would be sufficient enough to wipe away poverty in this area?
Well, first of all, you have to support this income-generating revenue activity. And reducing poverty has two facets. It's what you bring indeed to the communities directly. But the other element is that how you generate more resources so that the states, can indeed be in turn channel and redistribute the resources. So what I'm trying to say is that one key dimension of poverty reduction is increased growth. You need to have more growth. And this is why Lagos, being one of the catalytic center, economic center of the country that generate a big part of the growth, support is provided to Lagos. It is also the gateway of the country. So it is in that sense that I would say that we should not, we should rather, I would say, recognize the importance of supporting Lagos as an important economic center. That being said, what you are saying is that let us ensure also that the smaller states, the ones that are behind, are being supported. And this is why now we are moving in a different stage where we have established a platform that we call the Country Assistance Framework with the partners, with all the development partners to Nigeria, so that we can be more strategic in the way we allocate resources to the various states and to the various sectors, so that we don't duplicate efforts and then we select areas of concentration, but then also to ensure that we look at the issue of poverty in a more granular way, and so that we can indeed channel more resources to the state that are behind. And that is part of the new strategies that we are developing at the moment.
So how do you see the procurement acts of the federal government?
Well, first of all, I think that Nigeria has come a long way with the adoption of the procurement law, putting in place the Bureau of Public Procurement. In fact, I've just received a report from the Bureau of Public Procurement showing the significant savings that resulted from implementation of the new procurement code. In terms of the World Bank, I think that where I see a need for improvement is compliance is important, and we need to continue to comply with the procedures, but we need to match compliance and efficiency. So as we were discussing a little bit earlier, more effectiveness, be diligent in terms of moving to the next steps, ensuring that actions are taken. If offers are due, let's say, the 20th of June, you need to make sure that the 20th of June you open the bids. And then you should not take 3 weeks or even a month to do the report. You have to put the team together very quickly and ensure that diligently the analysis is made. And if you work like that along the procurement chain, you should see some results. So I think that we still need to work together to improve the capacity, because we see that in some MDAs, the capacity is not necessarily there. So that means that a review that could take place in a few days can take a few weeks. And here, I think that there is still potential and room for improvement.
And how would you react to the recent cashless policy that is being pushed by many state governments in Nigeria?
I would say that the principles have been put in place, but I think that we still have to see the full benefit of the cashless policy as we see in Kenya, where I think that almost everybody is using the e-wallet with the M-Pesa system. So I would like really to encourage the authorities to move much faster. As a matter of fact, I told my team that I would like us also, the World Bank, to get involved into it. Why? Because clearly, you were talking earlier, the farmers, how much money are they getting for their product? But where do they put their resources? You see? If they keep the cash at home, you have a risk of being, for them to be, for this money to be stolen, then not getting interest, if they keep it at home. So how do you gradually integrate the system so that people can have access to this mobile system? In my view, it's really an area where I see a lot of potential. Unfortunately, Nigeria still, as you know, suffers also from the lack of power, of lack of electricity. Very often you go to this ATM, to this cash machine to withdraw money, and it's not working. In some cases it's due to, power failures, but also, technical failures. I do think that even myself, when I want to use my ATM card, I think that for a country at the level of Nigeria, we should see a much smoother system in place. But I believe that the authorities, the central bank authorities, have acknowledged that, and I am hoping that in the next 12 to 2 years we should see, a difference. And I'm certainly hoping that, because I think that it will make a significant difference in terms of poverty reduction, in terms of the opportunities that women have. And already you are aware of what the Minister of Agriculture has done to put in place the e-wallet to allow the farmers to get their subsidies directly and be able to go and claim, their fertilizer. I think this type of platform could be expanded and be used for various purposes. I also heard recently that the government has decided to deliver ID cards. I believe 13 million ID cards that could be used not only for them to register information, but also to be used as also an e-wallet to receive subsidies from the state, which will facilitate the targeting of subsidies towards the poor. But also, once the system is operating, it becomes an instrument that families, households, poor women can use. So I see, in a country like Nigeria a great potential to improve the cashless economy, but we still have progress to make.
We understand that you were deployed from Congo to Nigeria, so one wonders how much of adjustment have you made in adjusting to the stereotypes and some of the sentiments that people have about the World Bank, which you feel you need to correct?
Well, I mean, in discussing with people, they wanted, you can see that people want to see the World Bank much closer to the citizen, much closer to the beneficiaries. There was a sense that maybe we were not as flexible, that we were a little bit rigid, and we were not listening. So I think that it's quite encouraging. We are certainly not perfect. We are listening. In fact, we conducted recently a country survey, and I think that what came out of this country survey was that the World Bank was relevant in Nigeria, that they were expecting us to play still an important role in development. They wanted us to work much more closely with the beneficiaries and the communities going at the local level, which is what we are doing. You see, even our review is no longer in Abuja, but we go around the country and we bring the actors at the local level. We don't stay in the office, we go and see what is happening. You were with us, we were able to see 6 projects over the past 2 days. And I think that we need to continue to listen more to what the client is telling us.
Mrs. Francoise Marie Nelly, it's been a wonderful moment having you in this edition of Network Africa. Thank you very much indeed.